Start by safely lifting the vehicle until the rear wheels are completely off the ground. Then, for Polaris RZR vehicles, remove the passenger side wheel and passenger side shock. This step may be skipped on the Polaris Ranger. Next, disconnect the magneto or stator connector, then carefully remove the wire grommet from the radiator hose. With that out of the way, remove the crank position sensor. Take out the screws securing the magneto cover. There are 13 in total. Once all the screws are removed, gently pry the magneto cover away from the engine. Remove the crankshaft bolt and washer. And then, using an OEM-style flywheel puller, remove the flywheel from the engine. The starter crank gear may come off with it. This will also be removed, same as the starter torque limit gear and shaft. Next, remove any of the old magneto cover gasket from the engine and then clean the surface. Next, remove the 3 screws securing the stator to the magneto cover. Then remove the 2 screws holding the stator wire bracket. Remove the 3 screws holding the starter one-way bearing bracket. Ensure the bearing stays in the bracket. Install the stator to the new magneto cover. Then apply a drop of red Loctite to the threads of the provided screws, insert, and then torque them to 106 inch-pounds. Reuse the 2 screws for the stator wire retaining bracket. Clean the threads, apply a drop of red Loctite to each screw, and then torque to 71 inch-pounds. Next, clean threads of screws, and then apply a drop of red Loctite to each thread and reinstall starter one-way bearing onto the provided flywheel. Torque screws to 12 foot-pounds. Remove the starter crank gear and starter torque limit gear and shaft. Please review all steps in the installation of the flywheel before proceeding to ensure a correct install.
Clean both tapered surfaces of the crankshaft and flywheel with isopropyl alcohol or equivalent. Do this twice. Also clean the ridges of the woodruff key.
Place a 360-degree bead of Loctite 641 around the crankshaft taper and the flywheel inner taper. Then install the starter crank gear into the new flywheel assembly. Align the woodruff key on the crankshaft with the keyway channel on the flywheel and install the flywheel, seating it fully on the taper. Then reinstall the starter torque limit gear and the shaft into the engine.
Clean the provided crankshaft bolt with alcohol or equivalent and then apply Loctite 263 to the thread.
Using the provided crankshaft bolt and washer, install through the flywheel and thread into the crankshaft. Important: follow the steps to install the flywheel retaining bolt carefully. You will need a strap wrench and a torque wrench. An impact gun will not meet the required torque for the flywheel retention bolt. Please refer to vehicle service manual as needed. Using a strap wrench, secure the flywheel and torque the bolt to 129 foot-pounds. Then loosen the bolt 180 degrees. and torque the bolt to 129 foot-pounds. Place the new magneto cover gasket onto engine. Next, place the install sleeve tool onto the end of the flywheel. Next, pre-oil the seal and then carefully install the magneto cover onto the engine. Once the magnets engage, the cover will want to snap against the engine, so keep fingers clear to avoid pinching. Then align the cover onto the engine and carefully tap the magneto cover onto the engine using a rubber mallet until it is fully seated.
Check the seal to make sure the lip is installed correctly and is not folded over.
Next, reuse the 13 screws for the magneto cover. Snug all screws in place in a crisscross pattern. Then, in a crisscross pattern, torque screws to 106 inch-pounds. Torque screws on magneto cover to 106 inch-pounds. Next, install the crank position sensor. Reuse the screw and torque to 106 inch-pounds. Remove the install sleeve.
Next, clean the surface of the shaft with alcohol or equivalent.
Next, route the stator wire behind the radiator hose and connect it to the vehicle harness.
Install the motor mount bracket and leave loose. Use the existing hole for the bracket.
For razor installations only, remove the heat shield and cut a section out to make room for the main bracket assembly. Remove the cargo box to gain access to the heat shield. Cut and remove the cable tie holding the heat shield in place. Remove the heat shield.
Cut a 4-inch section off of the heat shield as shown.
Deburr the cut edges as needed. Reinstall the heat shield with existing hardware and a new cable tie. Next, install either the alternator or compressor assembly onto the main bracket assembly. Using the supplied hardware, loosely slide the M10 bolt in the bottom, and then install and torque the top M8 bolt and nut to 15 foot-pounds. Final assembly will be done later to secure the M10 bolt. Install the main bracket assembly onto the magneto cover using the 3 supplied M6 bolts. Torque to 106 inch-pounds. Install main bracket assembly to motor mount bracket with M10 bolt and nut. Torque to 40 foot-pounds.
Next, torque the motor mount bracket to 40 foot-pounds. Then clean the inside of the screw pulley with alcohol or equivalent. Then apply Loctite 641 around the magneto shaft. Then apply Loctite 641 around the inside of the pulley.
Then, install the provided woodruff key into the flywheel, and then slide the crank pulley onto the flywheel.
Clean the threads of the pulley screw and the inside of the magneto shaft with alcohol or equivalent. Then apply Loctite 263 to the thread of the pulley screw.
Lubricate O-ring on the screw pulley and then install into crankshaft.
Using a strap wrench, torque the screw pulley to 50 foot-pounds. Install the 3 provided set screws into the screw pulley, torquing to 106 inch-pounds.
Then loosen the tensioner nut and ensure the tensioner is in its full upward position. Then install the belt. Next, tension the belt and then tighten the tensioner nut to lock it into place. Torque the nut to 26 foot-pounds. Next, install the main cover assembly using the provided screws. 4 long M6 screws and 3 short M6 screws. Torque all to 106 inch-pounds.